Good morning or good afternoon, depending upon where you are, of course, and welcome to Decode the Barcode, a webinar about the myths, tricks and tips for barcoding within your IBMI enterprise. My name is Andy Nicholson, and I'm pleased to be joined by barcoding expert and industry stalwart, John Greenwood of Dakota IS. Hello, John.
Thank you very much, Andy, and welcome everybody to the webinar. Today, for the uninitiated, we'll provide insight into starting your native barcoding strategy. We'll provide considerations on barcode generation, site installation, and available technologies. Plus, we'll provide insight into your next steps on how to improve processes and add value.
That's extremely right, John. But before we start, just a quick bit of housekeeping. Should you have any questions or require additional information on anything you see during the webinar, please use the GoToWebinar Management Console. That should be somewhere hovering over there on the right-hand side of your screen. Now, here you can ask questions, and we'll answer these at the end of the webinar. So we've a packed agenda. Starting with an abridged history of the barcode, we'll move into various types and the uses of barcodes by businesses. Next up, we'll discuss technological considerations. Then we're going to introduce concepts that will allow you to deliver native IBMI barcoding solutions before finishing off with a brief introduction to how we complete this through the use of our own solution, ShowMe. But let's start with an abridged history of barcoding. Over to the expert, over to you, John.
Thanks, Andy. As far back as the 1960s, barcodes were used in the industrial work environments, with some of the earliest uses being for the identification of railroad cars. However, it wasn't until the 70s when barcodes started appearing on grocery shelves and within the workplace and manufacturing factories. The marriage between barcoding and enterprise was inevitable. Toyota first introduced Kanban in the 1950s, but the first quantum leap forward in process improvement happened in the 1980s, when barcodes were introduced to the Kanban tickets. This, coupled with the evolution from MRP to MRP2, eliminate manual entry errors and provided greater productivity. The 1990s improved this further through better technologies and computing power delivered to the operatives themselves. This provided better decision-making with processes such as alternate picking, optimized paths, corrections, and notices. This brings us to the modern day. Today, barcoding provides live transactions at the point of delivery, and with modern BI tools, we can analyze these transactions in real time to analyze shipping, production, and warehouse trends. So barcoding has become a mainstay of business today. But what is a barcode? What are its benefits for the enterprise, and how do we make this work for us?
That's a very good question, John. Well, we'll start with what a barcode is. Now, in simple terms, a barcode is a graphical representation of data. Every barcode is encoded with a special start-stop character. Now, these codes help the reader detect the barcode and figure out whether it's being scanned forwards or indeed backwards. Now, the barcode you require depends upon the data you require to store within it, and of course, its application. So there are essentially two forms of barcodes to choose from. These are linear, and these are the most common, and you'll notice these as the standard barcodes on the back of your tin of beans or as part of a bin within a warehouse. Data is encoded within the width of these bars and spaces. Now, next up is the two-dimensional barcode. You'll recognize some of these as QR codes on posters or in magazines, but are used in other forms that require a greater amount of data stored within the barcode itself.
That's right, Andy. And within each type, there are a number of subsets. Here we've illustrated the most popular subsets of each type. Within linear, we have the original EAN types. These are still popular today, but they do have limitations, being numeric only. 8 or 13 characters being stored within the barcode. These are the ones that you'll find used at point of sale within your typical Tesco's and Asda, etc. More popular is the code 39 symbology that offers greater flexibility with up to 25 characters of alphanumeric content. But by far the most popular and most frequently used barcode worldwide is code 128. This excellent density, high reliability and flexible barcode offers multi-character alphanumeric encoding with support for all ASCII symbols and control codes. It's this flexibility that sees its adoption within the NHS for records management and asset tracking markets. Moving into the two-dimensional types, we have PDF 417. This was actually the first two-dimensional barcode. This is excellent for encoding large amounts of data with 1,800 printable ASCII characters or 1,100 binary characters per symbol. The capacity of PDF 417 can be helpful in applications where the data must travel with the labeled item, so it's used for areas such as storing technical specifications, license information, or shipping notes. Quick response, or QR codes, were originally developed in the mid-1990s as the answer to increasing Kanban ticket information requirements. Today, these have become commonplace in consumer advertising, typically storing a web address, a V-card, or a compressed message, or similar. There are more subsets than I've presented here, but these are by far the most common and widely used today. Between these barcodes, you'll be covered for the vast majority of all your requirements.
Okay, so we understand a little more about the barcodes themselves. We've got an idea on what barcodes we should adopt for particular processes. Now, before we jump in with both feet, let's discuss the benefits. First, barcoding provides a unique identity for the part, ensuring more accurate picking and/or use with less confusion and faults. The introduction of barcoding systems also has immediate impact on data accuracy, with an accuracy of over 99% achievable. Using the right technology, data collection and reporting can be completed in real time. We can therefore support better decision, easy for me to say, better decision-making at point of process, apply lean operations, and provide live analysis of results as they're happening. So the advantages of barcoding sound good. But what processes should we barcode? Where should we start? First, we need to evaluate the processes that can be improved with barcoding. Within manufacturing companies, for example, whether discrete or process, just in time, just in sequence, or lean, they all face a range of challenges to raise operational efficiencies. From some existing processes limiting productivity to negligible traceability, you should take some time to identify those areas that would benefit from such improvements. Then there's how to create barcodes, how to capture data, and site considerations including equipment and network requirements. And this is before anything can happen. So over to you, John.
Initially, it's important to establish what it is you wish to label, for example. Are you looking to label the individual products themselves, the box they are packed in, or the outer case containing a number of items, or indeed all of these? This will give you a good idea of the size of label that is required and will also point you in the right direction with regard to the label material. This could be from plain printed paper using laser or inkjet technology, right through to synthetic label media that will use a resin ribbon and be very resistant to harsh environments and even solvents and other fluids. Next, you should look at the type of printer you require. Are the barcodes going to be included as part of some type of form? If so, then a business quality laser printer would be appropriate. Then for label printing, you have a wide choice of between 2 and 8-inch wide printers of various specifications. Consider the volumes. For example, printing a few hundred labels would require a good desktop device costing no more than £300 or so. However, higher daily volumes or chemically resistant large format synthetic labels will require something more serious and hence be more costly. Finally, you should consider the best way to create the actual label design or designs as well as printing them.
Now, for the IBM I Enterprise, we would recommend a native solution that would consolidate your barcoding label and form requirements. We should be able to extract the raw data from your spool file, database tables, or indeed a mix of both. Then, using transformation rules, transform the data into the appropriate forms and labels and send them to the appropriate department for generation. I mean, for organizations with external stores or multiple offices, consideration should be put in place for remote location creation. I mean, for example, the automated creation and distribution of XML and PDFs via email, or FTP, or a remote IP printer connected via the VPN. Now, the key here is to use native IBMI applications to take the raw data from your enterprise and enjoy the flexibility to use it as we require using simple process rules. We'll look at a solution to complete this in a few minutes' time, but before we do, let's discuss how we go about capturing data. Over to you again, John.
Thanks, Andy. Before the days of Wi-Fi enabled mobile computers, the very first mobile devices were simple data collectors, ungainly handheld devices with very limited storage capacity and no integrated barcode scanning capability. Captured data would be downloaded from the device as a batch file for processing as and when necessary. Batch processing remains effective, but is slow as updates to the enterprise are only completed on holstering the gun or connecting the device at the end of a shift or on completion of a particular process. Real-time is where the huge gains are, and we provided insight into these areas in our free white paper. More on that later. The barrier to real-time processing have been vastly reduced. Fully integrated Wi-Fi enabled computers no longer come with a premium price tag, meaning that business-critical data can be captured and processed in real time whilst on the move, at the point of transaction, enabling live interaction and analytics within your enterprise. When choosing the right type of device for your needs, there are many options to consider. What ergonomic do you prefer, for example? A pistol grip is typically used when there is a lot of barcode scanning taking place. A brick or PDA type form factor is readily holstered between scanning options, so that's good for ad hoc applications where scanning is maybe less frequent. Finally, choosing the right keyboard for the device should be given some consideration if keyboard entry is required for entering data such as item quantity information. Most devices these days offer 3 keypad options of between typically 28 and 52 characters, keys rather, and generally speaking, the more keys on the keyboard, the smaller they are, so test different keypad layouts before making a decision on the keypad form factor you wish. Choosing your device, its configuration and keyboard will largely depend upon the business processes it will be used for. We can break these requirements down into a table that details the device and their corresponding application. While this table demonstrates that choosing the right device depends largely on application, considerations must also cover application delivery. For example, for real-time data capture and transactions at point of process, the infrastructure must be present to facilitate free processing without being tied to a terminal for batch processing information by having to cradle the device at regular intervals. Over to you, Andy.
Thank you, John. These days, most households take for granted home Wi-Fi with multiple devices connected simultaneously, providing seamless connectivity for any amount of applications and services. Similar principles apply to the enterprise, but unlike your home, where you may have Wi-Fi black spots and single-level security, appropriate considerations should be applied. To allow mobile computers to roam freely throughout the facility, wireless access points provide seamless enterprise-level connectivity, handing over device connection between them as and when necessary, without the operator even noticing. For real-time point-to-transaction processing, this technology is an imperative. Thankfully, like home broadband, the cost of this technology has tumbled in recent years, while reliability has peaked to over 99% uptime. The required quantity of access points for Wi-Fi infrastructure can sometimes be easily estimated where there are wide open areas, minimal racking of a facility to measure less than, well, 30k square feet or so.
Taking this a step further, in this example, should we visualize the topography of a standard warehouse based upon the access point configurations, architecture and total space? An access point configuration plan can be designed to meet the individual needs of the business. It's important that you eliminate black spots and maintain a consistent 99% uptime coverage. As a rule, Dakota provide this service for roughly around £700. However, prices may vary between vendors, so be sure to check that your costs include a detailed report, including full documentation of the findings, including a recommended placement guide. Any report should form the basis of a comprehensive quotation for the supply, installation, commissioning of the required RF infrastructure, with the guarantee that, once installed, the mobile devices will function seamlessly throughout the facility. When the RF survey shows the need for a large number of access points, one should consider the use of a wireless switch architecture. This solution offers the user the ability to control and support the wireless infrastructure from a central controller rather than having to access individual APs when initially configuring the system, making modifications to the settings or fault finding, etc. Ongoing system management is simplified greatly, and in some instances there may be a cost saving to be made by implementing this type of centralized wireless switch architecture.
Thanks, John. Now, with the wireless network in place, we can concentrate on the process. Here we can see a workflow from a customer of ours using barcoding in a number of areas. What's important to note here is that the interaction between the handheld device and the back-end IBM iServer is seamless. I'll go into a little bit more detail on how we produce the barcodes and the software we use on the scanner in a few moments' time, but at this point I'd like to suggest that this is the ideal in which your modern enterprise should aim towards. Direct from source, we're producing the barcode forms and labels within the appropriate department using the designated printer. And then, within these departments, be they picking within the stores, loading at dispatch, checking goods in, or any number of other tasks, we have a real-time transaction at the point of process. These live links are a natural successor to batch processing and should be the focus of intent when looking at a solution. Indeed, for more information on batch processing versus real-time, please download your free copy of our white paper. If you don't already have the link, you'll have one in your inbox in a day or two's time as a follow-up to this webinar. So please keep an eye out for that. But to summarize what's in the white paper, I'd like to give a highlight of a couple of key points. You see, real-time is all about building better processes. It's a matter of maximizing productivity and improving efficiencies to reduce costs and improve profitability. These are real, tangible benefits. Only recently, the Wireless LAN Alliance conducted a study to identify the cost of ownership, as well as tangible and intangible benefits gained from wireless LAN technology. They found that 92% of respondents reported a definite economical and business benefit after installation of the WLAN. 92% will continue to deploy wireless technology throughout the enterprise due to the benefits experienced. All respondents in all industries, that's manufacturing, retail, financial, healthcare, and education, reported a return on investment in less than 1 year. But in addition, more timely information enables better business decision making. The introduction of lean processes and more accurate processing. Inventory requirements can be reduced, lowering associated capital expenditure and facilitating just-in-time manufacturing, while simultaneously orders can be filled quickly and more accurately, increasing customer service, satisfaction and retention levels. And native IBMI real-time processing has added advantages. Imagine if, as a transaction is happening at point of process, that data was reflected in real time on a dashboard or a management console somewhere. A great example of this is within the warehouse where, on a big plasma screen on the warehouse wall, we can display in real time a leaderboard of the most productive operatives or live notices, alarms or announcements. We can send operatives alerts or messages and have them respond immediately via their device. All these things and more are possible for the IBMI enterprise. Now, one of the most popular questions we get is, how should we go about creating barcodes? And my response is always the same. Our customers love using Route 1. Now, Route 1 is the IBMI native solution with a PC client component for smart and automated integration. It's simple to set up and can use a mix of data from the spool file DB2 or a D both, and can automatically create and produce professional documents such as invoices, notes, picking lists, and labels too. To produce the desired results, Route 1 will extract and transform data from the selected sources to merge and encode. This is a non-enclosure image, chart, and more importantly, the symbology of barcodes within a particular template. As the template designer, we use Microsoft Word. It's quick and easy, but really quite powerful. And within Route 1, enjoys many options for multiple barcode types. Once the merged document has been completed, Route 1 will direct the document to the printer with the correct department and its designated printer. The whole process is seamless and can be automated upon rules. With the right solution, creating correct barcode labels, tickets, and documents needn't be troublesome. But can the same be said for reading barcodes?
Well, Andy, in short, yes. To recap, we now have our barcoded labels that were encoded and produced direct from their source on the IBMI. To read these, we require a scanner that's designed to read the encoded barcode type. For this scenario, we're deploying a mobile workforce within the warehouse via a browser, so pretty much any handheld computer from the past 10 years should have the capability to do this. There are data handling components, in this case it's called Data Wedge, that translates the read image with the barcoding application of choice. We're using ShowMe Barcode, Utilities 400's native IBMI barcoding solution that's accessible via the browser, allowing easy deployment for multiple devices without per-user licensing issues. The advantage here is that the application is launched by the browser and as such has direct point-of-transaction access to the back-end IBMI server. As you scan, this ShowMe Barcode in-browser application is validating the results and submitting them to the IBMI via the ShowMe engine that resides on the server. This seamless process provides live transactions with enterprise-class security and analytics.
Now, we're not going to go too in-depth into this technology within this introductory webinar, and we've only got just 5 minutes to go. But suffice to say, everything we've been discussing within this webinar is possible today. Real-time point-of-transaction technology that's easy to adopt, roll out, and deploy for the IBMI enterprise. So let me just take a few minutes to guide you through how you could be producing this through ShowMe Barcode. And for those in the webinar who believe that ShowMe brand sounds familiar, you'll be absolutely right. ShowMe Barcode is built upon the extremely popular ShowMe platform, which already includes real-time multi-dimensional OLAP-based business intelligence, B2B portals, and application development. Through web-based deployment using one enterprise item for compatibility with office-based users to mobile operatives working on their iPads, Android devices, and the like, including mobile computers for barcoding. How do we go about creating these applications? It all starts within the WYSIWYG ShowMe Design Studio. It's here that we design our applications. Now, Utilities 400 can design applications for you, or you can choose to design your own. It's really quite easy. Let's take a look. So within the ShowMe Design Studio, we'll choose the device we'd like to deploy to. The Design Studio has many different devices and settings to choose from. So it all depends upon the format of application and the dedicated device you're going to deploy to. So in this case, we're creating an application for the Motorola Telexon. When logging on, ShowMe will auto-detect the machine you're logged on to and send the appropriate resolution accordingly and template. Now we're presented with a work area representing the Motorola Telexon barcoding computer. We can see it here within the portrait display. So let's add some elements and build the application. There are a number of options we can add here, including data grids and panels, which are the data handlers to and from the IBMI. But to start, I'm just going to add some images. So selecting an image opens my library. I can choose one from the existing images or upload a new. I'll select the logo at the top there. If I insert the graphic, and just like that, where within the editing suite, I can move and resize this to my heart's content. So I make it a little bit smaller and put it up to the top of the image there. Next, we're going to add a button. On selecting the button, we can do a number of things, including add animation and text. I'll do this in a minute, but first I'm going to show you the choices for what you do when someone presses the button. So here I select events and I can see all the options available. There are many, from interactions with the IBMI, exports, filters, and more, but this is the launch menu. So I want to launch the stock updates program, so I'll select that particular dashboard. While I'm here, I'll change the button to read stock updates and change the size of the font to, and there we go, done. Okay, once that's done, we can rinse and repeat with other buttons, and I'll add a smaller logo, smaller logout button at the bottom for when the operator has completed his shift. Great, so that's the main login menu complete. Now to produce the scanning screen for stock updates. So from here, I've created a copy of the main menu, removed the buttons, and added the subtitle for stock updates. Now, as I'm going to create a data entry field, I now add a data grid and choose the inquiry I want to add. A ShowMe inquiry is a highly configurable method of presenting, retrieving, and writing data without the need to coding skills. It's really cool, actually, and you can add display data as graphs, charts, and even export to Excel if you like. But for this purpose, we want to add the data entry table so we can scan data. So the data is scanned in real time. Okay, so there it is. But it doesn't look very presentable, so we'll freshen things up by changing the layout. Within ShowMe, we can have complete control over the data we receive and transact with on the IBMI. The look and feel is one of those areas, so I'm going to change the font type and colors, and so I end up looking with something that's nice and clean and fresh. At any point, I can preview the results in ShowMe to see how the template would act on any particular device, so it all looks good. So we can see here that this is how it would act and look like on the barcoding device itself. Now, these aren't the greatest photos, granted, but as you can see, the barcoding solution is up and running on the Motorola barcode scanning device in what took, in real time, less than an hour to develop. Now, we could do a video for this webinar, but for a 5-minute video of this in action, keep an eye out for the link in the follow-up email you'll receive tomorrow. So the good news is that creating barcodes and implementing a barcoding solution is far from rocket science. There are native solutions that will integrate seamlessly with your enterprise and have been designed specifically for each use and flexible over multiple scenarios. Perhaps equally as important is that these are solutions that are tried and tested even with the most arduous business requirements.
We hope you find the information within this webinar and the companion white paper useful. but we are available to help you further. Between Utilities 400 and Dakota Integrated Solutions, we have over 20 years of barcoding and IBMI experience. We've come together as a service and product providers to offer help, advice, and ultimately solutions to the unique requirements of your IBMI enterprise.
To discover more, please feel free to contact us regarding a no-obligation free site survey and a barcoding proof of concept. But as we're closing in on the half-hour mark, we'll finish with taking your questions, and I have a couple here. First from John Delaney. He mentions you mentioned a submit button after scanning. Can you automatically complete a transaction on each scan? Well, Jonathan, yes, you can. It's completely configurable. So, for example, when we did that template design there, we did it so you could scan multiple items and at the very end hit submit. Very good for counting. However, in some instances, for picking, for example, you might want to do a transaction completed on the press of the trigger rather than having to press a submit button on the interface itself. So yes, not a problem with that. You can mix and match to your heart's content. Another one here from Trevor Hall. He said, I have a warehouse with multiple racking and mezzanine floor, but only a relatively small storage area. What do I need to get Wi-Fi up and running? Over to you, John.
Well, in the first instance, I would be personally more than happy to come and visit you and have a look around the facility, talk to you about where you wish to introduce mobile devices. If initially you wish to introduce mobility and mobile data capture within a particular small area in the warehouse, then realistically it's only that area you need to provide coverage in. Ultimately, using mobile devices throughout your facility, then it's obviously prudent to have full site coverage. But initially, just give me a call and I'd be more than happy to discuss it with you and pop in and visit. No problem at all. Thanks, Trevor.
Okay, and we have one from Tom Border. He says, we need to produce barcodes for UPS. Do you know the barcode type we need to use? I think is that a maxi code, John?
You know what, it's definitely a 2D code. It could well be maxi code, data matrix, I'm not really sure, to be honest, but at the end of the day it'll be one or the other, so not a problem. We just need to scan one of them and find out what they're using. I think it is a...
And I have a final one from David Warner, who asks, how can I produce the barcodes within Route 1? A lot's changed and is changing within Route 1 to produce this. And we'll provide you some advice offline on how to do this. It's part of the latest release of Route 1. So David will get back to you on that. But as we're slightly over the half-hour mark, approaching 35 minutes, I think we've done pretty well with time, John. Congratulations, and thank you for all who attended. Again, this is very much an introductory webinar, but if you want to go into more depth into anything that you've seen here, please don't hesitate to contact us. Our contact numbers will be available post the webinar, so please use those. Tweet us, email us, call us. We don't care, just contact us. But for today, thank you very much for attending this webinar, and I wish you a very good, well, rest of the day, depending upon where you are in the world. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you very much.